My girlfriend posted cozy pics with her ex, captioned, "The good old days." When I asked, she said, "Don't be insecure." So I changed my status to single. "Now you can have new days." I texted. She begged me to delete it when her parents saw. I was sitting in my living room, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound. I'd been waiting for her to get ready for dinner, scrolling through Instagram to pass the time. My eyes had started to glaze over as I mindlessly clicked through photos, when something caught my attention. Her profile photo had changed. Not the usual smiling selfie, but a carousel post featuring 4 photos with him. The ex. The caption. "The good old days. Sometimes you gotta appreciate what shaped you." I froze, staring at the images of her in his arms. There they were. Him with his arm around her shoulders. At a beach sunset. Their faces close as they shared a coffee in a cafe. A Halloween costume, her head resting on his shoulder. And a trail hike with her laughing beside him. All memories she decided to share with the world. Just now. Uff. What the hell? I muttered under my breath. I didn't want to overact. Everyone has a past, right? But this felt like a slap in the face. These weren't just casual photos. They were intimate. She was clearly reminiscing. And while we were supposed to be solid, while we'd been talking about the future just days before, here she was, publicly romanticizing the past with him. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose, as I tried to process what was happening. My heart sank, and the sting of jealousy twisted in my chest, but it wasn't just that. It was the disrespect. Why now? Why did she feel the need to share these memories? Especially while we were together. I set my phone down, still trying to shake off the unease. She came out of the bathroom, still doing her earrings, looking casually unbothered, as if everything was fine. "Hey. Can we talk about that Instagram post?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She glanced over at my phone, her lips curling into a half smile. "What about it?" "The one with your ex. The good old days caption." My voice was tight now, the frustration creeping in. Why post it publicly? Why now? She rolled her eyes, annoyance flashing across her face. "Oh my God, seriously. It's just nostalgia. We had good times back then." "Yeah, I get that, but posting it now, while we're together, it feels off. Disrespectful, even." She huffed, looking me up and down with a look that screamed impatience. "It's my Instagram. My memories. Don't be insecure." "I'm not insecure. I'm saying it's inappropriate to romanticize your ex while we're in a relationship." She snatched her purse off the counter, her jaw clenched. "I don't have time for this. Are we going to dinner or not? Or are you going to keep being jealous over nothing?" The word jealous hit me wrong, and the tension in the air thickened. "I'm not jealous. I'm disrespected," I snapped. "There's a difference." She didn't respond, just grabbed her jacket and stormed out, slamming the door so hard it rattled the frame. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, the anger bubbling up inside me, as I replayed the argument in my mind. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't about the photos. It was about her complete disregard for my feelings. The gaslighting. She called me insecure, instead of even trying to understand my side. I reached for my phone. My thumb hovered over my relationship status on Facebook. I thought about it for a moment, feeling a mix of anger and relief. She had stormed off, clearly not caring. Why should I? With one swift motion, I changed my status to single. I didn't explain it, didn't make a post. I just changed it. My heart raced as the notification popped up on my screen. Status updated to single. I stared at it for a few seconds. Then texted her. Status updated to single. Now you can have all the new days you want with whoever. I hit send and turned off my phone. I woke up the next morning to my phone buzzing incessantly. 23 missed calls. 60 texts. The sheer volume of them hit me like a punch to the stomach. My fingers hovered over the screen, hesitant to open any of them. But I had to know what she was saying. The first few messages were angry. Are you kidding me right now? You changed your status. One read. That's so immature, said another. Then, more texts followed, shifting tone. Call me back now, she demanded. You've got to explain this. It felt like my heart was sinking deeper into my chest with each message. The texts kept pouring in, each one more desperate, more frantic. Ryan, please. This is crazy. My family is asking questions. My mom saw the status change. Call me. Please pick up by midnight. Then, a shift again. I'm sorry. Okay. I shouldn't have posted those pics. Please change it back. My parents are asking what happened. This is humiliating. Everyone can see it. Please, I'm begging you. I could hear her voice in my head, shaky and full of panic. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the onslaught of guilt, tripping in anger. I had no idea how much she was going to fight this. But I knew I couldn't let myself backtrack. I read through the messages again, slowly this time. And I felt the anger slowly bubbling back up. It wasn't about the damn post. It was about the fact that she couldn't see why it hurt me. Couldn't understand why I was upset. She wasn't asking me how I felt. Wasn't owning up to her actions. It was just manipulation. I wasn't going to fall for it again. I stood up from the bed, my phone still in my hand. I needed to be done with this. For good. I needed to stop letting her control how I felt. The relationship was over. And that was that. Without thinking twice, I grabbed my phone again and sent her a message. You dismissed my feelings, called me insecure, and refused to see any issue with publicly romanticizing your ex. That's not a relationship. Status stays. We're done. I turned off my phone, set it on the table, and walked away. I could still hear the buzzing from the other room. The constant reminders of her trying to reach me. But I didn't want to hear it. I didn't need to hear it. The next morning, I opened my phone and saw there were more missed calls and texts. But I didn't even need to look. I already knew what they'd say. She was angry, confused, and desperate. I felt this strange sense of peace come over me though, as I scrolled through them. Seeing her panic, and knowing that I wasn't going to let her drag me back into her world of manipulation. And then it hit me, hey. This wasn't just about the post. This was about me finally setting a boundary and sticking to it. For the first time, I wasn't backing down. I made coffee, the warmth of the mug comforting in my hands. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. Maybe this was the right decision after all. As the day went on, I ignored her calls and the constant stream of messages. A few hours later, the text shifted again. You're breaking up with me over Facebook. You know I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I had already made my decision. But then, later that evening, I got another message. Please, just tell me this is a mistake. That one stung. But I didn't respond. I wasn't gonna let myself fall into the pattern again. She had to face the consequences of her actions. I spent the next few hours pacing around my apartment, letting the reality of the situation sink in. The phone was still buzzing on the table. But I didn't touch it. I couldn't bring myself to. Every time I thought about checking her messages, I felt my chest tighten. Like I was stepping back into that toxic cycle. I had to stay strong. I had to stay resolute. But that night, as I sat on the couch with my thoughts, I found myself second guessing. Was I being too harsh? I knew this relationship had been going downhill for a while. But was I really willing to throw everything away, over one post? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. That it wasn't just about the Instagram post. It wasn't about the photos, or the caption, or even the jealousy I was trying so hard to suppress. It was about respect. And I had been asking for it for far too long, only to be ignored. I couldn't stop replaying the argument in my head. The way she dismissed my feelings, called me insecure, brushed off everything I was trying to explain. I could almost hear her voice in my mind. Don't be insecure. It stung every time. It wasn't about her ex. It was about the fact that she refused to see my perspective, to see me. As I thought about all of it, I realized how much this relationship had drained me. I had been so willing to ignore the little red flags, to put my own needs aside just to keep things smooth. Every time I voiced a concern, I was gaslit or dismissed. This had been the pattern, and it had gone on for far too long. And then it hit me. I wasn't just standing up for myself in that moment. I was standing up for the version of me I had lost along the way. The version of me who believed that love wasn't about playing games, about dismissing someone's feelings, or about sacrificing self-respect to make someone else happy. I grabbed my phone and opened her messages again. Only this time, I wasn't afraid of what I'd read. I scrolled through a few more desperate texts from her. Her apologies shifting into confusion, into anger, into something else entirely. Why won't you talk to me? You're being childish. I don't understand why you're doing this. The texts didn't even faze me anymore. I knew what this was. It wasn't about me being immature or childish. It was about me finally seeing the truth and being strong enough to act on it. I picked up the phone and, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the consequences. I wasn't afraid of the fallout. I texted her back, "You left. I didn't break up with you. I changed my relationship status because that's what's real. The rest is just damage control. I'm done." There. It was out. I hit send and placed the phone down. The relief that washed over me felt almost surreal. Like I had been holding my breath for so long. And now I could finally exhale. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I was in control. The tension in my chest eased. The weight on my shoulders lifted. This wasn't just about ending a relationship. It was about me reclaiming myself. My boundaries, my dignity, my peace. I felt a small smile tug at my lips. Maybe it was the relief. Or maybe it was just the simple satisfaction of knowing I had made the right choice. Either way, it felt good. But then, as the hours passed, and the silence lingered in my apartment, a part of me started to wonder. What would she do next? Would she call again? Would she beg for me to take her back? Would she try to manipulate me into feeling guilty? I knew I wasn't going to change my mind. But I couldn't help but wonder how far she would go to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. And then it happened. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This time it wasn't angry or frantic. It was more resigned. You really mean it? This is really it? You're done over an Instagram post. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. I thought about it for a moment, then replied. I'm done. You should have thought about this before you posted those pictures. I'm not apologizing for setting boundaries. This was it. No turning back. I wasn't playing her game anymore. The next few days were a blur of unanswered texts, missed calls, and an overwhelming sense of finality. I didn't feel the weight of regret I expected. Instead, it was almost like I was stepping out of a fog I didn't realize had been there for so long. I went about my days in a strange sense of calm, knowing I'd made the right choice, but also feeling the sting of what had happened. Then came the calls from her family. First, her dad. His voice was stern, demanding to know what exactly I had done to his daughter. He accused me of humiliating her, of shaming her publicly. It was strange, hearing someone else talk about me, like I was the one in the wrong. I listened to him for a while, letting his words wash over me, feeling the pressure mounting in my chest. You had to do this publicly. You couldn't have had a private conversation? He asked. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Actually, sir, she made our relationship status public first. I just updated it to reflect reality. There was a long pause. I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. What exactly did she post? He asked, almost cautiously. Photos of her with her ex. Cozy photos. It wasn't about the post itself, it's about the disrespect. Another pause. He clearly hadn't known the full story. He finally muttered. I didn't know that detail. No one did. I said, my voice firm. That's why I can't apologize for what I did. She chose to share those memories while we were together. And when I tried to talk to her about it, she called me insecure. He grunted, clearly struggling with his emotions. Well, I guess if you're that upset, I can't force you to do anything. But you need to understand how embarrassed she is. She's a mess. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of his words, but refusing to let them sway me. She should have thought about that before posting romantic pictures with her ex. Fine, he said, clearly losing patience with me. Goodbye. The line went silent, and I felt a strange sense of relief. But that wasn't the end. Her mother texted me shortly after, asking if I could fix things with her daughter, pleading for me to reconsider. I didn't respond. Then came her best friend, Jessica. Jessica had been one of the few people I still considered a friend. But even she seemed to be caught in the crossfire. She sent me a text asking if I was really sure about what I was doing. The message was blunt of, you need to fix this. She's crying. She's a mess. Do you really want her life to fall apart? My chest tightened as I read her words. But I didn't feel pity. I had been crying too, and I realized just how much I had sacrificed for this relationship. I wasn't going to let guilt make me waver. I didn't break her life. She did. I texted back, my hands shaking slightly as I typed. She posted those photos. She dismissed my feelings. I'm not going to fix it. I stared at the message for a while, wondering if it was too cold. But I knew it was the truth. The longer I sat with it, the more certain I became. I wasn't going back. Later that night, I received another message. This time from her. It was a voicemail, and I almost didn't listen to it. But I did. Her voice came through, thick with emotion. Please, Max. Please. My family is falling apart because of you. My mom's been crying for days, and my dad won't talk to me. You need to tell them the truth. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wasn't thinking. It's not what you think. I need you to fix this. I could almost hear the desperation in her voice. I sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. But then it hit me. She still didn't get it. She didn't understand that it wasn't about the photos or the family drama. It was about her lack of respect for me. About her failure to consider my feelings. I hit the delete button and turned off my phone. I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the mess. The next morning, there was more fallout. Her mother called me again, trying to trip me into reconciling. You've embarrassed her enough. Please just talk to her. She pleaded, her voice cracked with emotion. I was done. I didn't owe her anything. I didn't owe anyone anything. She made her choices. I'm done. I'm not fixing this, I said firmly before hanging up. But still, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was somehow still tied to her. Tied to the emotional web she had woven. Every time the phone buzzed, I wondered if it would be another desperate plea. A part of me almost wanted to pick it up. To hear her tell me she understood. But I knew that wouldn't come. This was the consequence of her actions. And the truth was, I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I just felt free. Days passed in a haze of silence. Each time my phone buzzed, I hesitated before checking it. The texts and calls from her family slowed down. But they didn't stop. It felt like they were all circling, waiting for me to slip, waiting for me to cave in and apologize. The truth, though, was that I didn't feel guilty. Not anymore. Her mom called once more, her voice laced with desperation. I know you're angry, Max. But you're making a huge mistake. She's lost so much already. Her father, he's barely speaking to her. Her friends are turning on her. Can't you just fix this? Please, just talk to her. You don't know how much this is hurting her. I sat at the kitchen table, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to her plead. Her words felt heavy, almost suffocating, but it wasn't guilt I felt. It was frustration. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I'm not fixing anything, Linda. I've said it before. She made her choices. I didn't make her post those photos. And I didn't make her dismiss me when I asked about it. I've done enough. There was a long pause on the other end. Finally, her mother sighed, her voice softening. I understand, but I just wish things didn't have to be this way. I know. I said, my voice steady. But it's too late. I've already made my decision. After I hung up, I stared at the phone for a while. It wasn't just about the breakup. It was about everything leading up to it. The little things that piled up over time. Things I had let slide. Because I didn't want to rock the boat. But here I was, finally standing up for myself. No longer afraid of the consequences. Then, a few days later, the calls started coming from mutual friends. One by one, they reached out. Each of them trying to mediate. Trying to convince me that I was overreacting. It was always the same. You should talk to her. It's not that big of a deal. Cess. But I knew it wasn't about the post anymore. It wasn't even about the breakup. It was about respect. And I'd had enough of her disrespecting me. One of the messages came from Jessica. The one person who I thought would understand. "Max, you have to know she's sorry," she said, the words almost pleading. "She's been crying for days. She didn't mean to hurt you. Please talk to her." I stared at the message, feeling the familiar twinge of guilt gnawing at me. I wanted to be there for her. To comfort her. But I couldn't. Not anymore. Not after everything. I typed a response slowly. Each word heavy with the weight of my decision. "I know. She's sorry. But it doesn't change the fact that she's done this before. She ignored my feelings. And that's not something I'm willing to overlook anymore." There was a long pause before Jessica replied, almost like she was waiting for me to soften. "I get it. But maybe you're being too hard on her. She made a mistake. People make mistakes." I read the message again. The words spinning in my mind. People make mistakes. Sure. But this wasn't a simple mistake. This was a pattern. And for the first time, I realized I had to break free from it. "Some mistakes can't be fixed, Jess," I typed. "And I'm not gonna pretend like this one can be. I'm done." I hit send, and put the phone down, taking a deep breath. I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders with every step I took toward moving on. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The following morning, I received another text. This time from her younger sister. I hadn't expected her to reach out, but there it was. A simple message F. "Max. Can you just tell me what happened? Please. Everyone's saying different things, and I'm just confused." Vas. I thought about it for a moment. I could have ignored her, could have kept my silence. But something about the honesty in her words made me pause. I didn't owe her anything. But maybe, just this once, I could set the record straight. I replied, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed. She posted photos with her ex. I told her I didn't like it. I told her it was disrespectful. She called me insecure, dismissed my feelings, and walked out. That's why we broke up. There was no immediate response, but I felt a weight lift. As if saying it out loud made it even more real. It wasn't just the end of the relationship. It was the end of the version of me who kept letting things slide, who kept silencing his own needs to keep the peace. I knew, without a doubt, that I had made the right choice. But that wasn't the end. The phone rang again that evening. Her mom. I let it ring. The familiar ache of guilt tried to creep in, but I quickly shut it down. I don't owe them anything, I reminded myself. This was the moment where I finally got to choose myself. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the need to apologize. I thought the storm was over, but it wasn't. The next few days felt like a never-ending series of phone calls, messages, and attempts to turn me into the villain. My ex's family had fully mobilized, and they weren't giving up. They didn't want to accept that their daughter's actions had consequences. They were determined to rewrite the narrative. And I was the one they needed to blame. Her father called again. This time more forcefully. "Max, you don't get it," he said, his voice sharp. "Oh. You don't understand how much pain you've caused her. You humiliated her in front of her whole family. Her mother's beside herself. And you think this is some small thing. You've crossed a line." I felt the familiar knot in my stomach. The pull of guilt trying to drag me back into their world. But I resisted. I had already explained myself. And I wasn't going to do it again. "Sir, I didn't humiliate her. She did that herself when she posted those photos. She dismissed my feelings. And I called her out on it. That's the truth. This is between her and me." His response was to yell. His frustration spilling over the line. "You've made a huge mistake. We all thought you were better than this. Maybe that's the problem," I said quietly. "You all thought I'd just keep letting her walk all over me." There was a long pause, and then he sighed. "Fine. But this isn't over." The conversation left me unsettled. But it also reaffirmed everything I had been feeling. This wasn't about the Instagram post anymore. It was about power and control. About me finally taking control of my own life. And I wasn't going to let her or her family make me feel guilty for doing it. The next message came from her mother. And it was no less desperate. "Max, you don't understand. We raised her to be a certain way, and she's a good girl. She's just confused. Please, I'm begging you. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her?" I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Linda, I've already forgiven her. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you. I can't fix this. She's the one who has to fix herself." I sent it. And then immediately put my phone down. I didn't need to keep revisiting the past. I had already made my decision. And there was no going back now. The phone rang again, but I ignored it. It was her best friend this time. I knew what was coming. She'd been trying to get me to soften my stance, to apologize to Maya, to make things right. But nothing was going to change my mind. The next day, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from my ex's sister, the one who had reached out to me earlier. This time though, she seemed different. "I talked to Mom and Dad," she wrote. "They're really upset with her. They understand now. She's told them the full truth." I let out a breath, feeling a strange sense of relief. Maybe the truth was finally starting to sink in. Maybe, after everything, her family was beginning to see things for what they were. I thought about it for a second, and then typed back "FF. I'm sorry she's going through this. But she made her choices. I can't keep cleaning up after her." Here. It was as if I was seeing the whole picture clearly now. I wasn't just moving on from her. I was moving on from a version of myself that I had allowed to be manipulated. The guilt that had clung to me for so long was finally starting to fade. The next message that came through though stopped me cold. It was from my ex, and it was a voicemail. I hesitated, but then pressed play. Her voice came through, shaky and almost broken. "Max, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know what happened, but I can't lose you. Please. I can't go back to how things were before. I can't. Please talk to me. I need you. You're all I've got." I listened to the message twice. The desperation in her voice almost made me falter. Almost. But then I thought about everything. How she had walked out that night. How she had dismissed me. How she had refused to even try to understand why I was upset. This wasn't about love. I realized. It was about control. As she didn't want to lose me, not because she loved me, but because losing me meant losing the comfort of knowing I'd always be there. Accepting her on her terms. I didn't reply. Later that evening, as the sun set, and the soft hum of the city drifted through the window, I felt this strange calm settle over me. It was the kind of peace that comes with knowing you've done the right thing, no matter how hard it was. I had finally made my choice. And I wasn't gonna let anyone, not even her, make me feel like I had made a mistake. The days that followed were a strange mix of silence and chaos. It seemed like the more I distanced myself from the situation, the more the world around me tried to pull me back in. My ex's family kept reaching out, each call and message carrying more desperation than the last. But the truth was, I was done. I had made my decision, and I wasn't going to let anyone twist it, or make me feel guilty for finally standing up for myself. One afternoon, while I was sitting on my couch, trying to distract myself with a book, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her sister again. The message was short, but it carried the weight of something much bigger. She's really struggling, Max. Everyone's talking about it. I don't know what to say to her anymore. Cess. For a moment, I hesitated. I didn't want to get involved again. I knew what I had to do. But the thought of her struggling, of the fallout she was facing, hit me in a way I didn't expect. I wasn't heartless. I understood the pain she was going through. But I had to remind myself, this wasn't my responsibility. Not anymore. I typed a quick response: if she's made her choices, I can't fix this for her. I won't. There was no reply. I put my phone down and tried to focus on the book again. But the words blurred in front of my eyes. I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't. But a part of me felt conflicted. It was hard to ignore that nagging feeling in my chest. The one that told me I had been part of her life for so long. And now I was completely detached from it. But that was the point, wasn't it? I had to let go. I knew I couldn't keep looking back. But there were moments, like this one, where the weight of everything we'd shared felt heavy, almost suffocating. How had it come to this? How had I let myself become so wrapped up in someone else's drama, their issues? The next day, I ran into one of her friends at the grocery store. They were someone I used to see frequently, but I hadn't seen them since the breakup. They approached me cautiously, as if testing the waters, unsure of how to act. "Hey, Max," they said, giving me a hesitant smile. "How've you been?" I nodded, trying to keep the conversation light. "I've been good. Keeping busy." "That's good," they said. But their tone was strained. "Look, I don't know if you've heard, but things have been kind of a mess with her. She's not doing well. People are talking. I just wanted to say, she's really sorry for how everything went down." I felt a knot form in my stomach. The same guilt I had been pushing aside started creeping in again. But I pushed it down. "I know," I said quietly, meeting their gaze. "But I've made my decision. I can't go back." They nodded, as if they understood. I get it, man. Just don't be too hard on her, alright? I didn't respond right away. What could I say? What was there left to say? I'm not being hard on her, I said finally. I can't keep pretending things are okay when they're not. They gave me a small, sympathetic smile before walking away. The whole encounter felt strange, like stepping back into a world I no longer belonged to. It wasn't my world anymore. And I couldn't keep trying to hold on to it. I didn't let myself feel bad. I couldn't. Not now, not after everything. The next few days were quieter. No more calls from her family. No more texts from her friends. The silence was almost peaceful. I spent my time focusing on myself. Cleaning my apartment, going out for walks, catching up on shows. It felt good to breathe again. To not have to worry about anyone else's emotions or problems. Then, late one evening, just as I was settling into bed, my phone buzzed. I didn't have to look to know who it was. It was her. I stared at the screen for a long time. The vibration of the phone, seeming louder than it should have been. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let it go. But, I'd been avoiding this for long enough. I opened the message. It was a text from her. Max, please. I need to talk to you. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I can't fix things with my family. I just need you to help me. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I knew what she was asking. She wasn't apologizing for what had happened. Not really. She was still asking for me to fix her problems. I put the phone down again, taking a deep breath. No, I couldn't keep doing this. I had to let go. She had to face her own consequences. That was the truth I had to live with. I wasn't responsible for fixing things that weren't mine to fix. I had tried, for far too long, to make things work, when they clearly weren't meant to be. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing I had done everything I could. And now, I was free to move on. The phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. It had been a few weeks since everything had calmed down. My ex's family stopped reaching out. Her friends had all but disappeared. And for the first time in a long while, I felt the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. I was living my life again. And I was doing it on my own terms. There was no more drama. No more manipulation. And most importantly, no more walking on eggshells. Trying to make others feel comfortable, while ignoring my own needs. I woke up one morning to a clear sky, and the peaceful quiet of my apartment. The hum of the city outside was distant. Like a faint memory. It felt like the right time to take a step forward. The past had been painful. But it had also taught me something important. How to stand up for myself. I wasn't that guy anymore. The one who would bend and twist to keep others happy. I was stronger now. Even if I hadn't expected to find strength in something like a breakup. It wasn't that I was celebrating the end of the relationship. I wasn't looking for any kind of victory. It was more like a quiet realization that sometimes letting go is the healthiest choice for everyone involved. I thought about the times I had been gaslit into believing that I was the one at fault, questioning my own feelings and doubting my instincts. I thought about the texts and the calls, the apologies that never felt sincere, and the moments when I let her off the hook to avoid conflict. But no more. The last few weeks had shown me that I could trust myself, that I could trust my decisions, even if they were hard to make. I spent that day cleaning my apartment, throwing out old things, clearing out the clutter. It was symbolic in a way, getting rid of the emotional baggage I had been carrying for so long. As I folded a pile of laundry, I thought about how much I had grown in just a short amount of time. I wasn't the same person who had been constantly second guessing every decision, trying to please someone who didn't see me for who I truly was. Then, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't unexpected anymore. I had known this moment would come. It was a text from her. Her number was still blocked, but this time, it came through a different number. A new one she'd probably gotten just to reach out to me. I hesitated before opening it, knowing what I'd read. But I opened it anyway. I can't do this anymore. I can't fix my life without you. Please, I need you. Don't leave me like this. The same pleading tone. The same manipulation, masked under the guise of sorrow. It felt distant. Almost like it wasn't even her anymore, but a version of herself, trying desperately to hold on to what was slipping away. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I leaned back against the couch, taking in a slow breath. I realized that in all the time I had spent with her, I had got engaged. The one trying to fix things, trying to make them work, while she had been content to let me shoulder the weight. Now, I didn't have to carry it anymore. She had to carry her own. I thought about how she had tried to rewrite the narrative, turning herself into the victim when the truth was clear. But I had learned something valuable. I had learned that I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The truth was mine to live, and I didn't need her or anyone else to validate it. I blocked the new number and set my phone aside. The door to that chapter of my life was finally closed, and I had locked it for good. Later that week, I ran into one of our mutual friends, someone I hadn't seen in a while. They were cautious as they approached me, unsure of how to bring up the past. But when they spoke, they didn't ask about her. They didn't ask about the drama. Instead, they smiled and said, "You look good." Really? I'm glad to see you doing well. It felt like the final confirmation that I had made the right decision. There was no more tension. No more need for apologies. I had let go. And in doing so, I had finally found peace. A few days later, I met someone new. Her name was Lily. We had met at a coffee shop. Just two strangers striking up a casual conversation. She didn't know my story. She didn't need to. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that had been missing for months. Hope. It wasn't about replacing what I had lost, but about moving forward. Understanding that the right person, the right relationship, would never make me feel small or invisible. It would never ask me to sacrifice who I was for the sake of someone else's comfort. I took it slow, with Lily, letting things unfold naturally. We spent the next few weeks getting to know each other, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams. It felt easy, comfortable. She respected me, and I respected her. For the first time, I understood what it meant to be with someone who valued me for exactly who I was, not for who they wanted me to be. And while I wasn't looking for it, I felt myself healing in ways I hadn't expected. I wasn't rushing into anything. I wasn't forcing it. I was just living in the moment, enjoying the new beginnings that had finally started to bloom in my life. I glanced at my phone again, seeing the text messages from her. But this time, it didn't matter. I didn't need closure from her anymore. I had already found it, in myself, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the choice I had made to move forward. The chapter with her was over, and I was okay with that. The next chapter was mine to write.